Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of January the 15th, 2023. We have a very powerful sky at play that is going to get more intense as we progress towards the end of the week, but even as we speak in the present moment, reality, life, and many layers of it did feel a little bit bipolar because there is a strong dual energy preparing itself, activating itself for an imminent discharge or manifestation. And we are speaking about Saturn preparing to go to an erratic position in Aquarius that will, in a certain way, mark that it's time for certain bigger things that Saturn can also complete when it enters into the sign of Pisces, because Pisces is, at least from a karmic perspective, the sign of finalities. So that's where something is as ripe as it gets, or it's in final stages, so something needs to happen with it. May it be something karmic, destiny, a situation, a feeling, a health problem even, because Pisces, especially when Saturn is in it, it does speak about hospitals, it does speak about medical institutions, places where we isolate to get well, basically. This can be physical Saturn, but this can also be a state psychological where we choose to not necessarily go within and live from within, but more like also place emphasis on everything that is inner, everything that is spiritual, psychological, emotional, so it has something to do with, the expression of Pisces. But before we get to that, Saturn has to finish its last wrap-ups in the sign of Aquarius, because, that is the energy of Aquarius enters into the sign of Pisces, and that's where it gets to full maturization, processed, absorbed, you know. So yeah, this period is a heavy preparation for that. When we're feeling it, it does reflect in our relationships, it does reflect in our even everyday communication. Why am I saying all of these? Because Mercury and Mars, Mercury retrograde, the ruling planet of Gemini, and Mars just barely went direct in the sign of Gemini, so it's still in shadow path, going through its shadow path. So we're also feeling a heavy wrap up where some communication, some things, truths that we have to share, some are quite contractual, official, needed, very, very practical, others not so much, but they're needed from a different perspective. So these things need to be said, will express Mars verbally, contractually. So it's time for action, and even mental action, where I'm not just analyzing it, thinking about it, but already, working with it. The plan is in executory mode, and with Mars still in, its shadow path going through it, also wrap up some reverberations of your very, very recent past actions might reach you at this time, and also where Mars retrograde along with Mercury retrograde, you thought certain actions, gestures, words, something that you've done was in vain or didn't produce any results, fruits, and now you might see that actually that's not the case. So it's also lifting the confusion. And this is basically the cause of the bipolarity, or at least the way we experience it, because life comes in package of both good and bad news, bad news, joyful moments, sorrowful moments, so yeah, we succeed at one area and we are troubled and challenged at other areas. So in order for us to keep a balance, we actually have to go into the bipolar mode, because live the good but also live the bad in a truthful way. But as I said, this energy is getting more intense, and is eruptive and full of surprises. this week, especially as we head towards the end of the week. But before we get there, let's see what we have at the beginning. So we have Venus in the sign of Aquarius, still squaring Uranus, so surprises. But also getting out of the comfort zone leads us somewhere, to a reality check perhaps, because very soon, this week of course, Venus will start meeting, so they won't perfect their, actually they will, towards the very end of the week with Saturn. A strong emotional reality check, value as well, money can be part, and or relationship at work, with authority, with society, with your social sphere, friend sphere. Surprises may have already reached you from that area, and also this is where you kind of have to know your values in order to bring them into the future, because Aquarius is also our hopes and dreams. Now, needless to say that collectively, externally, it is going to be disruptive. It is going to be about finances, about what we are building, perhaps in a more concrete way for the future, like projects, with buildings actually. Like, I'm not even sure how you say that, where you make like project to build like residential areas, and under this energy that either gets approved, like yeah, it's going forward, or it might have to be, transformed one way or another, because also towards the end of the week we have a very, very intense energy where the sun meets Pluto in the sky, and that is where, whatever truths, whatever even feelings that we might be feeling at that time, as I said, in a reality check way, may that be about a relationship, about even something even purely spiritual, but concrete things as well, love, job, your own persona, who you aspire to be, what are your immediate future plans and even long-term future plans. All of these things, well, how you feel about them, what you have in the present moment accomplished, and how can you take all of this into the future. Because this is what the Sun meeting Capricorn are kind of saying, because the Sun meeting Capricorn in the sky also activates Pluto's expression, where it is grinding down on the last degrees of Capricorn, deconstructing the old normality, deconstructing the old order, and also in a way forcing all of us to truly let the lessons of 2020 and onwards sink in deeply, because the meeting of Saturn and Pluto in 12th of January 2020 was not just important from a collective perspective, but also from an individual. So it did transform the foundations of something within us. So quite a core transformation, and this is one of those moments from many, of course, when we do become aware of how deeply it transformed us, and also how much transformational work we still have to do in order for us to actually feel that life is truly, authentically ours, it fits us, and it serves us as well, not just we serve it. Aquarius, the individual and the collective both are equally as important, they matter. Needless to say, Jupiter in the sign of Aries is also all about this. Everyone matters. Sovereignty, basically. And in this sense, everyone is responsible for their own sovereignty, because there are all those things that we don't have power over. We are simply just sucked into the game, may that be life, nature, survival, relationship, etc. But we have also that portion, regardless of how small or big, where we do have sovereignty over, where in the worst case scenario we can at least say, well, I cannot, at least in faith, in belief, be part of this, so I dissociate myself. And even, sometimes when the physical situation is actually where it would not matter, you would be surprised how a deep psychological and soul level dissociation from a situation, a person, even karma, even anything basically, can trigger physical reality. And that is an act of taking into your own hands your sovereignty, because when you declare with basically, of course, every fiber of your being to the divine something, chances are the response without fail is gonna be there at the right time. And usually the right time, when, as I said, it's a moment of great intensity, is not 10 years and stuff like that, but reasonable, when you know that, well, the divine responded. And for example, I can give you so very many situations from my life, my things that I lived through personally, and needless to say, how much other people have shared with me from their own experiences, their own lives in many ways. So all I can say that it works without fail. But the condition remains. It truly has to be from every fiber of your being, and the response, the reply, the reverberation will definitely be there. And when Jupiter is in the sign of Aries, usually that is an opportunity in the window of a 12-year cycle when these moments do happen, when something deep within your being cries out for justice, for truth, for your own battle strength, or whatever it is that you need. But these are those moments, and Jupiter is doing his job quite well, quite intensely in Aries, and we must not forget that this is an intense Aries cycle, because it will whiz through the sign by the second half of May, if I'm not mistaken. It will already be in Taurus, so the energy and its expression and what it will do will change profoundly. But let's leave Jupiter, because perhaps Jupiter is not necessarily the biggest star of the show. One of the stars is Mars, because it is moving, it is wrapping up, it is determining us to take action, and it is actually triggering karmic energies, causing us coincidences, synchronicities, and timed meetings to take place. So of course this complicates our lives. Of course this sets us in busy mode, a bit of mental overdrive, but it's necessary, it's needed. And also this week, Mercury, at the beginning of the week, still retrograde, but already almost at a stop, holds a quincunx in conjunction with Mars. So we will need to truly put our intellect and, I would say, the core life experience to work. Because this quincunx kind of tells us that wisdom, true solution, true ingenuity is not just a Uranian expression, if you know what I mean. The spirit of epiphany, let's invent it, let's do it. But in some situations is actually a strong and profound life experience, when you just know the rules of life, and with inside of you something just knows, as I said, the rules of life and how things are going to turn out and how things are not going to turn out. And this is where this quincunx requires us to make judgments upon all of that. Because Mercury in the sign of Capricorn, practicality, and Capricorn ultimately the sign of the father. The father is a father because he went through so very many experiences and ultimately challenges, because in nature, with our species at least, The father has to face any kind of danger and challenge first for the family, and that is the rule of nature. So Mercury in Capricorn relies on many experiences like that, when you faced whatever. And this can have like non-survival expression as well, like at work, power dynamics. Why am I saying this? Because we cannot neglect that Pluto's meeting the Sun in the same sign. So power dynamics, exactly. But with Mercury and Mars figuring it out and taking delicate action. Because quincunx, overdoing it or being too weak in your cause won't get you anywhere, but finding the right balance and adapting very quickly and truly cutting with the sharpness of your intellect and truth is gonna get you there. So this energy is a bit complicated contractually because the nitty gritty. Quincunx, it's not all that clear, but you do need some kind of clarity. And chances are that clarity is what you decide subjectively. So you know how complicated the situation is. But Pluto meeting the Sun, the intensity of the truth, of the moment, of the decision, of the choice, of also, this is where that's that. You know, the situation is where that's that, or I am who I am, she is who she is, he is who she is. There's nothing we can do. This is where that song, like, I'm not gonna change my colors for you, but I still love you. You know what I mean? So this can be perfect, the perfect situation, but decisions need to be born out of this. And decisions like this, there is no right or wrong. It is meant to be subjective, but the subjectiveness does change matter. In the sense that, imagine if this is a marriage. Materially, the income, the daily routines, many things will change. But imagine if this is in a constructive way where they get together. Two single people, their lives will change because routines will change. They will have common schedule, common whatever, everything that they did not have before. Imagine if this is where you sign a work contract. Again, routine change, income change, even a mental change in the sense that how you solve problems at one workplace mentally is one routine, one mental construct. At another workplace, it's already different, so you need to be building it. So this does change a lot of things. Needless to say that Venus meeting Saturn also contributes a lot to this. And they meet at the very end of the week on the 22nd. So, but that is going to be a strong reality check. That is going to be a moment when the decisions, the choices can already be expressed. Because both of these energies do require a bit of material expression if possible, if you know what I mean. Aquarius is not a material sign, not an earth sign, but it's concrete. For example, it rules technology. The internet may just be one big schematic and calculations and a big plan, but it also exists in matter because we have the hardware to it, if you know what I mean. So that is, Aquarius does like to have also a material side to things as well, and not in a bad way, but no, it's practical. It needs to, the last air sign, so to speak. So of course it has to bring something more concrete than the other previous two air signs to the divine table. But what's even more important, before the meeting of the perfection, basically, of meeting of Venus and Saturn, there was on the 21st a new moon in the sign of Aquarius. A new moon which is full of surprises, full of shocks, full of revelations. It is sextile by Jupiter, so its expression is expanded a lot, and it's very individualistic, and it is the individual that will influence the collective. Why? Because Jupiter in Aries is highly individualistic, so to speak. Very, very much so. So this tells me that the change, the shock, the transformation will come either from everyone's basically individual reaction or reaction to something that might happen. And it might actually, because the ruling planet of Aquarius on the 22nd is going direct. So Uranus this week stands still in the sky. Its expression is amplified. That, and in the sign of Taurus, that can mean quite physical energies. As I said in the new moon video, if you want, check it out. It raises awareness. So when accidents are waiting to happen, usually they're triggered in chain so for example, well, a building burns down, but why? Because 20 years it neglected health and safety rules. 20 years, so it might be a big tragedy, of course, but logically, well, it would have happened one day without fail. And 20 years kind of was enough for someone to wake up. But sometimes Uranus says, well, I had enough. Let me show you why health and safety rules are necessary. So these situations can occur. Seismic activities, volcanic activities, and if the seismic activity is under the sea, so tsunamis, so yeah, all of this can be part of the picture, but it can, also be a emotional, political, financial earthquake. All of this can be part, and individually speaking, well, depending on where this is in your chart, which area of life, it can also be a shock in love, financially, even in the most positive way. Jupiter, sextile, you input a lot of intention, energy, focus into something, and it pays off. Of course, this can be part of the picture. This can also be more rebellious, a fight, an outlash, an gesture, heroism, why not? Aquarius likes heroes because it inspires the collective. Uranus can be also very heroic, very rebelliously heroic, so. And Jupiter, well, Zeus basically in mythology always had a relationship with heroes. Either good or bad, but it always led somewhere quite constructive. Sometimes for the hero, other times a good lesson for Jupiter himself. But Jupiter was usually someone who did value the lessons that he received from his adventures. So he wasn't someone who just put it on the shelf, okay, well, another box ticked. So he actually used it. And this leads me to believe that there are going to be big gestures of heroism that inspire us collectively, acts of bravery, acts of, why not, Jupiter, kindness, generosity, saving the day. And they might be very, very public because these degrees are near the world stage. So yeah. And the new moon also holds an outer sign conjunction with Pluto, highly transformative, or based on a transformation that we already lived, or a new moon ultimately is a new beginning. It is in a way fertile, so it builds from rubble. It builds on something that was perhaps already deconstructed, and this can be collectively and individually as well. But we must also not forget that Mars in Gemini, on the internet, informationally, in media, politically, everything that has to do with communication, mass communication, it's going to be quite intense. It's going to be full of conflict, misinformation. It's gonna be very, very intense, and this can also be a rebellious energy. So there might be protests, there might be Venus meeting Saturn at this time, strikes, where the syndicate blocks a certain lucrative area. It can also represent where Mars in Gemini transport is again blocked. Uh, Venus conjunct Saturn. Prices basically grow so much that something becomes blocked, and I don't have the necessary financial technical knowledge to even translate this energy, but financial astrologers do. So if you're interested in this, yeah, they can tell you what exactly drops and what goes higher. So yeah, but transport will be blocked, I do imagine, and strikes where the workers' voices weren't heard. There is gonna be disruption, but it's also gonna produce results, because ultimately Venus conjunct Saturn usually does something. So it's not just an emotion that fades away all that quickly, even though it's neither an energy that is so rare. They do meet every year or so. Every 1 or 2 years they do meet. So we have this quite a lot. And another energy that we need to take into consideration is that Black Moon Lilith, freshly entered into the sign of Leo, opposes the new moon. So it is going to be a bit shocking. It is going to be maybe built on a risk, built on a leap of faith. Why Leo is all about taking risks. It does change the game, how everything feels even, but the change itself can come into our lives over the course of the next 6 months. But the feeling of the change, I would imagine, because of this very active and strong Uranus, might be there. And let's just see the correlation. Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius. At this time, Sun, Moon, Venus, Saturn are in Aquarius. So all these planets get the rebellious expression. They also get the interconnected expression, where whatever happens to this friend of mine, this person who I'm connected to, well, chances are it's gonna happen to me one way or another. So mirror reality is also a way that we are gonna be experiencing this. And we cannot forget Mars is forward movement in Gemini, where it will produce effect. This is whatever happened, whatever shocks us, whatever risk we take, whatever that we do based on heart, Black Moon Lilith in Leo, it's gonna produce effects. And chances are we are gonna do something. Mars in Gemini, go somewhere, speak something, sign something, decide to execute a plan, solve something from the past. When I say past, this is usually just recent past. So it is going to be quite dynamic, but with Uranus, surprises may overflood us. And if I'm not mistaken, the Sabian symbol of this one between 1 and 2 degrees of Aquarius is an unexpected storm. So it's gonna be stormy out there, mentally, informationally, communication wise. Surprises, surprises, if not necessarily from our own life, from a friend, from someone who we're connected to. Shocking news, communication, information, twists and turnaround of events. So these might be expected both individually and collectively. So yes, it's not necessarily the easiest energy to work with, and Mercury Mars quincunx will make things quite complicated, and then Mercury will go forward and square. Oh, I'm sorry, trine, not square. Mercury will trine Uranus, and that kind of is like a saving grace. And Mercury right now, as in right now, at the very, very end of the week, is gonna trine the nodes of the moon. So the north node, sorry, in the sign of Taurus, and sextile the south node. So that also comes with solutions, that also comes with a lot of help figuring stuff out, or an advice that works, a professional that is already within our lives. And we must not forget that this week Mercury goes direct. So maybe and around the 17th and 18th of January it goes direct. It doesn't solve everything, but the feeling is already different, and what we perceive as, the usual Mercury retrograde misfortune, we drop this, we say this, and it's so bad. The unusual connections where, let's say you go to a dating site, and maybe personally experience this, and instead of the date, the romance, or everything else, you get work. As in, well, actually, I don't want to date you, but you are the professional I've been looking for all my life. Give me your number now. And you know that it's not going to be anything romantic. It's going to be hard work. So it's good in a way, and you're part of this divine connection where this was impossible to happen, and it's happening not once, not twice, it's just happening. So either you exit the dating site if you don't want any more work in your life, or you live with the fact that basically you're sucked into a function of the divine where give up on the classical way of living. But that also means you need to find your own way of dating, which life showed you that it's not the classical one. It's not how other people do it. But this example, put it into your area of life. Is it job, romance, relationships, contracts, your own relationship with the self, 8th house stuff, money, values, self-worth, debt, banks, authorities, 12th house, the past, traumas, spiritual stuff, past lives. It can be applied to it. Find adapt to how it kind of works for you. Now, you didn't want it, but it happened. So there are certain transformations, certain changes, certain upgrades that we neither did we see it coming, neither did it we want it, and even if we would have had a choice, we did not want it, if you know what I mean. But if it's in your life, you kind of have to live with it. It might not all be that good for you, but look at it from a more divine perspective. If it's all that good for everyone else, well, you will chances are you will have to live with it and compensate in other ways. So this is also that kind of energy with Uranus, that it surprises us and shocks us, and it gives us this kind of reality check where, well, you kind of were transformed by life, by circumstances, by what spiritually and whatever, into the person who you are right now. And even though certain changes were not optional, you didn't have a word to say, you still need to readapt how that area of life works now, for the person who you are now. And as I said, Aquarius energy, it doesn't matter that for everyone else it works in a more normal way or in a more classic way, or how easy it is for everyone else. You are you, and that's that. You need to find how it works for you, and if it doesn't have a really good logical rational explanation of why you, sometimes it doesn't have to. Because you can imagine, the divine doesn't choose the way we think. If you're the only soul who can fulfill that role, and it doesn't matter how billion people there are on the planet, there's sometimes and you're the only soul who can fulfill the role. And you're alive. So you will be put in that. So, Aquarius, the dichotomy of it, how not unique truly all of us are. We're just the same, really, here. At least here, we're just all the same. No one's irreplaceable. No one's all that special. And yet, the moment of life, reality, and how the quantum universe works makes us so very special that no one can fulfill that role except us. And both of this is true at the same time. So how is life truly not like a story, like a dream, like perhaps even a little bit from certain perspectives like the Matrix, where yes, there is that when only we can fulfill a role. May that be as simple as the shoulder that we need to give a person to feel comfort, or to help someone, save someone's existence, life, from the smallest to the most complex role, to, for example, to be the president of a state. Sometimes only one soul can actually execute that. Other times, it really doesn't matter, because no one's all that unique. So, this is how kind of reality works, and this Aquarius energy tells us that when it was us who fulfilled that role that no one else could fulfill, that transforms us, that changes sometimes even the natural course of karma, fate, and events. Why? Because would we excel at that? Would we impress the divine by that small role, which should only take a few seconds, hours, days, weeks from our life? Would we show excellence at that? More will be offered. That is when it is the divine itself who kind of erases certain quantum strings and changes everything for us, because we impressed it more than with our usual story, our usual work of art that is our life that we offer to it. So these are the Uranian moments when fate, destiny, even that which was heavily predestined, can sometimes change because we delight the Creator. And those moments can be so life-saving. Speaking about Saturn and Pisces, someone who was a criminal all their lives and was quite bad and evilish, let's say, one moment of great humanity, great gesture, great courage and self-sacrifice can turn that person's whole destiny around. That can be such a great forgiveness where everything is truly erased with the sponge, because that is basically the nature of the Creator, the playful, the unstable, the chaotic nature. And when these happen, you can imagine how every other being who blindly has to respect the rules and who is not showed normally this kind of mercy might feel envious. Even the angelic realms who are oblivious to emotion, even they might feel a certain jealousy of the capriciousness of reality, basically. So yes, that is Uranus, when we change and turn around everything by one gesture, one moment of courage, 1 second changes everything. usually in the best way possible. And these changes, they might be shocking because they stray you away from your faith, from your own creation perhaps, the road that you paved with hard work for yourself. But if you're straight from that, rest assured not only that the new path is something that you couldn't have even dreamed of, and also rest assured that whatever you've worked for the old path, you will get compensated back. And compensated is such a even profane word to use, but this is what transmits the message the most. So yeah, you will get compensated for whatever you've worked for more than the fair measure. So, there's a saying in my culture, basically, Romania, but every kind of Christian Orthodox culture where God is never, ever, ever, and will never be in debt. So it will always give more than it took, if you know what I mean. So this is definitely one of those weeks where surprises will hit us quite hard. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for all the love and all the support. And all I can say is be ready for surprises and shocks. And I really, really hope and wish that all of us get the better of it, like the true delight of it. So until next time, bye for now.